What we want to look at when it comes to duplication, understanding the principles of really how quickly it can move if we do it right. And so, how many of you, when you first enroll someone into your business, tell people to write a list? How many, like write a list, so the new person joins and you tell them to write a list? Yeah? Only a few people. What else, what are other people doing? Writing lists. Okay, look, without a list, you don't have a business, right? Your list is your database. It's really, really important. So I do believe it's important that people do write lists. However, what if I told you that you only needed one person? How many of you are working with one person at the moment? How many of you are teaching to duplicate just one at a time? Let me show you the hack. Okay, so if you enroll one person in your first month, so that means there's two in your team, right? You and them. In the next month, what if you duplicated that process? So you taught that person to go and get someone, and also you got another person involved in the business or the opportunity. So you'd have 4. Then you'd have 8 the third month. You get where this is going, right? Repetition, replication of numbers. Month 4, you'd have 16. How many of you would love 128 people in your business on month 7 from just enrolling one person a month? By the way, you could do this per week. This could be in 7 weeks. What if you just enrolled one person per week for 7 weeks? Could that make a difference in your life? Could that assist paying a few bills? Absolutely. But look at this, guys. How many of you would love 1,000 people in your business by month 10? And what about 4,096 people after 12 months? Or 12 weeks? Would that be nice? Well, here's the thing, guys. So when you focus on duplication and you understand the principle and the concept, it becomes really, really exciting. And what stops duplication is human beings. Because we overcomplicate things, we bring the emotional component in, we disempower people by trying to empower them, but we end up taking away their power. We do all of these things that result in this not happening. And we give up on our dreams. But what if I told you that even if 10% of that could happen, would you be excited by that? 400 people in your business in 12 months from just replicating one. Well, I can guarantee you that if you stick in the game and you follow the right systems and you do the right things over and over again, those kind of numbers can be very, very realistic. If you want to become a high performer in this game and you apply everything we spoke about this morning, then you might aim a little bit higher. But the concept with this is that tools are interchangeable and systems are duplicatable. You can't gain maximum duplication without systems, which is the process, and without tools, which are the interchangeable pieces, such as videos that you might use to share information, such as a contact list template, whatever it is. Templates and tools are vital, but they're always going to change. I see so many people saying, "Oh, this is such an easy business. All I got to do is share a link." How many of you have done that before? That's great. However, it's a little bit more than that, because we need to understand when to share the link. And that's the system part. So we're just going to dive into this, and I'm going to give you a 5-step system. By the way, again, if you've already got a system, you don't need to replace it with this, but this might fill up some gaps. If you haven't got a system, this is one of the vital cogs in the wheel. In fact, systems are really what I would say I excelled in, if there was one thing to give myself credit for when I was building a business, and that was getting started systems. So I'd like you just to write the question. And if you don't know the answer, go and find out from maybe the people that you're working with. But what is my getting started system? What happens when someone actually starts my business? What's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? By the way, I always work in steps of 5 or less because we can remember 5 on one hand, not 2. Us humans like simplifying things, right? Once you have to go beyond the 5th step, 6, 7, 8, how easy do you think it's going to be for someone that's just joined the business to remember it all? It's not going to be easy. It's going to be much easier if it's 5 steps or less. So a nice getting started system. Then you want your daily action system, which is this. You may also have a customer system, which is like, what do I do to acquire and retain customers? And you might have a leadership system, which is, if someone actually comes in and says, hey, listen, I want to move fast and I want to move to the top of the plan, you know the steps. Now, this is going to sometimes scare us if we don't have systems in place. And I don't want you to leave today and go, oh no, I'm going to have to do all of this all at once. No. Just identify the biggest, weakest link right now in what you have and fill some gaps. So the daily action system could actually couple as a getting started system if you didn't have one, although I believe that you could bring in the power of one much faster, like we just mentioned, rather than going down this path immediately. So for example, here's how I got people moving fast. And I duplicated, we call it tap rooting. Tap rooting is you bring someone in, you teach them to duplicate, and you teach them to duplicate over and over again and multiple times. All of a sudden now you've got a team that's eventuated from that one contact. And if you look at how all of this tap rooting will work, most of the time it comes down to, do you think you know one person? Could you give me one name? Could you bring one person to me? Could you put one person in front of the opportunity or product or service? So often we say, build a list of 200 names. Anyone done that before? We've all learned it. That's the old school network marketing way. Build a list of 200 names. Now contact all of these people, and then you're overwhelmed. And if you've got no communication experience in terms of business, that's going to really scare you, and that's where you go into that unconsciously incompetent stage and then into the consciously incompetent stage. So the power of one for me was always, if John or Mary had just joined, I would say, listen, could you write me a list of 10 people that you love and trust the most, and 10 people that are the most influential people you know? So now you've got a list of 20 names, 10 and 10. Making sense? From those two lots of 10, I'd like you to contact those people and identify whether they're open to something new. Right? So we're asking a question, are you open to something new? And when they come back and they say yes, then we can book a meeting. That's the simple process. But I only want you to focus on bringing me one person right now. Just one. So now what we've done is we've simplified network marketing because we're focusing on the power of one. If that person cannot bring you one person, and you're still investing in all these other things, trying to motivate and convince, then you want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And too often we give, hoping to receive, rather than giving based on alignment with that person's expectations or wants or needs. So find out where people are at. How do we find out where people are at? Ask good questions. Always keep asking good questions. So once you've done the 10 and 10, what happens? Once you've gone through the two lists, you find another lot of 10 and 10. Now behind the scenes, now once you've done a couple of these, you could be building a database of 200, 300, 500, 1,000 names. And you want to be building a list that never runs out of names, which is how we're going to really bring in the social media piece today. But the most important thing when it comes down to this whole piece is to make sure you start somewhere and you make sure step 1 is ticked off before you go to step 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so the daily action system is this. We need a list. We need to be adding to that list every single day. Number 2, inviting. We need to be inviting people to take a look at what we have, whether it's our product, service, or opportunity. Number 3, we need to share content in terms of what we have to offer, whether it's our product, service, opportunity. And that could be done in the form of a presentation, could be done in a group environment. But I'm going to give you my take on this. I always believe that the share should be done before someone goes to a group meeting. Because the group meeting then becomes the follow-up, and you have a much higher conversion chance because people are now seeing the vibe and the energy, and they don't feel like they're alone. It's social proof that something works. And the 5th step is enroll. So I'm actually going to practically give you this, and I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. So again, just fast hand maybe, a few notes here and there. A few of you have asked, well, how am I going to get this information today? We are recording today. So for everyone watching back at home, hello. We are recording today, and there will be the option for you to be able to access that. The one thing I do want to also say is a bit of a disclaimer. And I didn't say this morning. I saw it kind of happen, and then I was like, I'll do it this afternoon. Everything that we are doing here is content that is really designed for the room. So please don't share it. Okay, it's our own intellectual property. So I don't mind you doing bits and pieces from your own notes. Of course, you want to be taking as much of that as possible, but direct sharing on social media, please no. Is that okay? Okay, so this afternoon I will say that once we get to the next part, if we don't video that would be really, really good. But I totally want you to take as much information away. So here and there, if you see that there's a slide that could benefit you and your team, feel free to take a shot of it. But make sure that, again, it's not public and you put it in your own words first. Change it in your own image, if that makes sense. Okay, so your contact list. We've spoken about 10-10 and building a database behind the scenes. You can add people from multiple different ways. Today, the focus is social media. But saying that, we spoke about the average person knowing at least 200 names, so you can also tap in to people that you currently have access to by asking them whether they know people that might be interested in something. The invite, it's as simple as asking someone if they're open to something new. You can say it in a different way, but the word open really becomes inviting rather than are you interested? You'll get a lot of people say no if you say, are you interested? Because they don't, the defense comes in, and I'll tell you why. The parent-child scenario, I'm seeing this at the moment with my little guy. What happens when we're kids? We basically hear, James, come and do this. And I'll go, I'm not going to do that. You do the opposite, right? Because you want to be in control. So there's this power play going on. And you try to push your boundaries as much as possible. Or James, hey, we're going to go out now and get in the car. No, I don't want to get in the car. And those kinds of things. So there's that constant, you're trying to achieve something and the kid's trying to achieve the opposite, right? So we get conditioned that way. And by the time we get to adults, if someone says to us, can you do this? Often you'll be like, no. It's just natural. That's just how we've been programmed. So are you interested in this? No. But if you say the opposite, oh, I don't know if this would be for you. Oh, no, I'm interested. Watch this. It's the biggest tool with a takeaway. I mean, when someone hasn't contacted you back, right? You've been on the phone, you've called them, you've spoken about the opportunity, they've seen a meeting, and now they just don't return your calls. What's the best thing you can do then? Send them a message and saying, hey, listen, I don't know if this is right for you right now. Watch what happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but you get a lot of positive responses by saying, I'm so sorry, I've just been so busy, and you get the excuse come up. Okay? So the invite is, are you open? Are you open to taking a look at something? And that can be done, you can sandwich it by saying, look, I'm currently working on a business and we're expanding, we're looking for some people that might be open to taking a look. Would you be open to taking a look at something? It could be a product scenario. Hey, listen, I'm about to bring a product to market that can help with losing 50 kilos in 2 weeks. Again, don't use that. However, we're looking for some people that would like to trial it and give me some feedback. Would you be open to taking a look? Hey, if you haven't written that down, that was like literally how we were enrolling people consistently. Would you like to trial it and give us some feedback? People want to help. We're humans, we want to help. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. Well, if I can get that product to you at wholesale, would you be open to taking a look? Yeah. It's amazing how it works. Okay, so again, the invite, really, really simple, really concise. Most important thing with the invite is posture. 3 deep breaths, breathing, making sure that your feet are firmly planted on the ground. When they are, what happens is our belief system, and you saw today with the posture piece with what Dr. Tamara was talking about, it changes everything. It changes our neurotransmitters, it changes the way that we position ourselves, our energy's different, people start believing what we say. They say people can't, there's a couple of things that people say, but what I was going to say is people don't buy from people that they don't like or they don't trust at all, right? And when you understand that principle, posture is the only thing that can kind of hack the process. If you truly believe in what you have, and you've only just met someone, although I've mentioned we don't want to be in a transactional mentality, but you've just met someone and they genuinely need what you have, your belief in that whole system is going to completely make or break you, right? And it's important to remember that. So the invite's about posture. The sharing, write this down, 30, 30, 30, 10. And by the way, how many of you run traditional businesses in here? Some of you might do it on top of network marketing, of a traditional business, like entrepreneurial kind of ventures. Great. So this is the kind of stuff that can help here as well. 30, 30, 30, 10. Okay, 30 these are percentages. So 30% of your presentation, which could be a coffee meeting, it could be on Zoom, it could be on Skype, it could be so many different ways, but 30% is finding out about that person, asking good questions. So John, you told me that, the first thing you could say is, John, you've actually come and met me. What intrigued you about what I'm about to share? Oh, well, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Thanks for offering me an opportunity, James. I want to take a look. So you're going to hear a lot. And then understand and get people dreaming in front of you. So John, if you could do anything in the world right now and time and money were of no object, what would you be doing right now? And John says, I'd love to go take my kids to Fiji. I haven't had a holiday for 8 years. Great, John. So when you're in Fiji, now most people at that stage, if you hear that, you'd be like, oh, that's nice, wouldn't you? But what if you asked another question? So John, when you're in Fiji, what are you actually going to be doing? Oh, I'm going to be kayaking. I'm going to be on the water. I'm going to be, just really taking some time out with my family. And when you start asking these good questions, they start smiling because they're dreaming in front of you. And so, John, when you're out on the water, what's it smell like, feel like, taste like? You can get to that level. And eventually, once you've got to the core reason that John wants to do this, the biggest question is this: what's stopping you doing that right now? What's stopping you doing that right now? What's holding you back from accomplishing your dreams and your goals? And you're going to hear sometimes the insecurity kick in, sometimes, the lack of belief. Other times, real frustration, and you've got your vehicle here to be able to help that. But if you don't know about that and you just say, well, come and join my business, look at my amazing product, then retention is going to be so low. Our industry it has a long way to go in terms of retention. And again, it's just how it's been positioned. Would you agree? Yeah. So sharing the first 30% is about them, asking good questions. The next 30% is sharing the actual information. Now, here's the thing. The average person can retain 18 minutes of information from watching or listening things. So today I'm stuffed, right? So choose your favorite 18 minutes, and then I'll see you later. But no, the concept here is, in terms of one focus, one lot of engagement, and that's why topics on training days like this need to move quickly. Because if I spend 18 minutes on just sharing, then you'll be out of the room. So if you're presenting your opportunity and it's taking more than 18 minutes, what do you think is going to happen? Just get to the crunch. Get to the crunch. You don't need to talk about the 10,000 scientists that were employed so that it had a cool story. You don't need to talk about the 20 executives that had an amazing life. Honestly, that's great. People buy into stories, but find the key point. Every company's got great stories, right? Because networkers are highly paid storytellers. So just got to be really good at telling stories. So it's important that rather than focusing on all of that right now, that can be done in training. Focus on the key things that matter. The next 30% is bridging the gap between the first two 30%. And that is, could you see this as a vehicle to help you get to that you mentioned, to Fiji? John, could you see this helping you get to Fiji? Asking questions, handling objections. Oh, James, it's one of those pyramid things. How many of you have heard that before? How do you respond to that objection? Is that a pyramid? No. Is that what you're looking for? Next. That's 1970s, not 2018. We're in social selling. And the final 10% is the close. The close is not really a close, it's an open. Unlike a sale of a product from a shop where you never see that person again, that's the beginning of the relationship. Would you agree? So the 10% is really, really simple. I'm going to give you a really nice closing technique here that you can utilize. Firstly, John, it made sense to me. Did it make sense to you? Did everything I mentioned today make sense to you? And nod when you do that. A little bit of NLP. They'll start nodding with you. Dr. Tamara would love that. Secondly, so that's question number one. Question number two is, what did you love the most? Connect the emotion. What did you love the most about what you saw? Oh, love the fact that this product is taken from the Himalayan grapevines. And, I'm having fun with this, right? But, it's important to connect the emotion. They love it for some reason. The next question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you want to get out of the room right now, and 10 being you want to get started. Where do you fit on the scale? Is this helpful? Okay. And the final question is, when they give you the number. Now, if it's a 10, you're going to enroll them. But if they're not a 10, the question is, what do you need from me in order to help you get from a 7 to a 10? What do you need from me in order to help you get from a 7 to a 10? So that's the whole share piece. If it's a definite no, that's when we ask for referrals. Anyone good at asking for referrals? If any of you get a few referrals, it's great. So I'm going to give you a hack for the referral piece. If someone says no, please don't ask, well, do you know anyone that might be interested? Why do you think about this just practically? Someone's just put a brick wall up, and you're just basically banging against that brick wall hoping. But what if you were able to go around by triggering a thought? Maybe the trigger is, I really appreciate that it's not for you, John. Look, just a random thought and a random question. Do you know anyone that might be interested in making an extra couple of $100 a week? All of a sudden you start thinking, my neighbor actually was mentioning that the other day. Actually my friend told me that they needed that product or that solution. So again, you're going around the brick wall. The follow-up happens after the share, and on average it takes 5 to 12 follow-ups for someone to actually enroll. Now, a follow-up is not always a meeting booked, which I would recommend it is, because a lot of people, here's the average follow-up. Okay, it's not for you right now, or hey, you're a 7 and you need to get to a 10. Okay, I'll send you some information and I'll call you tomorrow. You've lost control. The moment you hand the control over to that person, you'll never get it back. So the best way of going about this is basically booking the next meeting. So the follow-up becomes the next meeting. So it's a yes with the share, it's a yes, a no, or a follow-up. If it's a yes, you enroll. If it's a no, you ask for referrals around. And if it's a follow-up, you book the next meeting. And at the next meeting, what do you think you do? Same question, same 4 questions. So John, I sent you the compensation plan that you requested yesterday. Now that's only if you couldn't go through it on the day, right? Sometimes we can handle objections on the day. John, it makes sense to me. Did it make sense to you? What did you love the most about it? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're ready to get started, 1 you want to get out of the room right now, where do you fit on the scale? And what do you need from me in order to help you get to a 10, if they're not a 10? This can just happen. Book the meeting. Motivation only lasts 72 hours, so you've got 3 days maximum to book the next meeting. If they're not ready yet, Relationships 101, please don't be the person that goes and says, hey, look, our company just won an award to someone that's not ready yet. Rather, ask this simple question. Hey, John, how are you? How's life? Be human. Connect. I had people enroll after 10 years of saying no. Timing wasn't right, because here's the thing. There's the looking zone. We've got to understand the whole looking zone. So we're looking for people. Now, they're often before the looking zone or after the looking zone. The before the looking zone is they don't actually know that they need what you have yet, or they haven't started looking. The looking zone is they're looking for an opportunity, product or service that you have, and you're looking at for them at the same time. That's the perfect alignment. Post-looking zone is they've already found something that helps them with their dreams and their goals. That's totally fine. Most people are not in the looking zone the same time you're looking for them. But if you don't maintain a relationship, they'll never come and join you later if they decide that they're ready. They'll go to somebody else because you saw them as a transaction, and people want to feel loved before they want to be seen as a shiny object. The enrollment. Once we get to the enrollment, really, really simple. It's all about perceived value versus actual value. If the perceived value, your perception, is lower than the actual cost to get started, you will not join. If your perceived value is higher, if you see it as it's much greater an opportunity than what you actually have to spend to get involved, what do you think happens? People are in. So a little hack for you on this. When it comes to the enrollment, there's just some really, really simple value adds that you need to really focus on. And that is to summarize at the end of a presentation or when someone actually says they're ready to enroll, rather than say, great, here's the enrollment form. Oh, I think you should do this pack. What about doing it a little bit differently? So I just want to summarize what I'm going to get, John. It's great that you want to get started, but firstly, I want to cover a couple of things. Number one, when you get started now, I'm going to give you the ability to have your own international business, or it depends on your company, right? But I'm just saying that as an example. You're going to get, and think of the retail value of the product or service that you're offering, right? So let's say you're a product-based business, and there was 3,000 Rand worth of product that they would get in a particular pack at retail. But to sign up, it's actually a little bit less than retail, right? So let's say it was 2,000 Rand to get started. But what you're going to do is you're going to say, John, I'm going to give you 3,000 Rand worth of retail value of product. I'm also going to give you access to a back office system, 24-hour support. I'm going to be there for you as your mentor coach, and I'm also going to bring in other mentors and coaches. And in fact, you can access a lot of our events at discounted rates. Normally, if you were to go to a big Tony Robbins a gala event, right, you'd be paying thousands and thousands of US dollars. However, our companies subsidize a lot of that so that you can actually get there for a small amount. I'm going to give you access to all of that. What do you think that's worth to you? So John now says, well, he's already said 3,000 Rand, so it's got to be more than that. Plus, I think it's worth about 5,000 Rand. Well, John, what if I could show you a way to get started for only 2,000? Because that was the wholesale entry point to the company. I'm just giving you that as one example. Is that making sense? That is such a great hack, because now what happens is the perceived value is higher than the actual value. So people will join. If someone says, no, either it's not aligned for them, or they don't see the value add to what you're offering. Because at the end of the day, what you're actually offering them is a vehicle to help them accomplish their dreams and goals, health, finances, whatever your company does, right? So these 5 steps happen over and over and over and over again. Like literally, it is the cycle of duplication. And if you can teach your teams just these 5 steps, but starting with the power of 1 rather than the power of 200, then I can guarantee you, you'll give people the roadmap or the tracks to run on. And not everyone's going to do it, that's fine, but at least you've got something now that is duplicatable within the entire team, because someone now on your 20th level that's joined under someone else is now going to have the same system that you have. And the great thing about that piece is no one's reliant on anyone. Everyone's working the piece of the pie. Where do you spend your focus as a leader? What we did this morning. Performance. Help people get the most out of their life and their relationships. If we can do that, and they've got the system to follow, right, things start to grow. Is there any questions that you would like to ask? I'm going to take 2 questions on that previous piece there. Would anyone like to ask anything that's still outstanding? What's there?
I'm saying the question is that when you discuss this and you find yourself someone who is a physician, that you're saying is not but they're saying
yeah, look, time is always the objection that people use the most, yet it's the least meaningful in the way that it is not normally the main objection. So normally it's used as an excuse, but what it is, I don't see it as a priority right now. That's what people are thinking. So they're using it as a way out. They're opting out of that process. Most objections are normally in that scenario as well. It's really, I don't see I can do what you're doing right now, or I don't feel like it's for me. Yeah. And I actually just call people out on that. So just ask that question. I would say, I totally get the time thing, but I also understand from working with a lot of people that is used as a reason. Is there any reason that you really don't want to do this beyond time? And then you'll dive into it. And often it'll be, it's not for me, right? And then you go around and ask for the referrals. Absolutely. Yeah, is it possible to do these 5 steps when you're employed and doing other things? Absolutely. So all you're doing is you're changing the target on each of these things. By the way, I would suggest you tracking these numbers, because what you can measure, you can improve. So how many people each day adding to your list, how many people you're inviting, sharing, following, and enrolling. And for you, if you were saying you were busy as an employee, it might be, I'm just going to add 2 people to my list each day to start with. Just make it manageable. Tick that off for a week. Go, hang on, I could actually increase this by a little bit. Yeah. Okay, I'll take one more at the back.
Okay, if you're new to set a business and you've got your 10 people, close to you, and then you're in business, would you recommend specifically, because now you don't really have the posture, you're new to the business, you're excited and so on.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that you have, when you do your presentation, that you have an expert, so that can be your upline or someone like with?
Yeah, all the time. Always. Yeah, with no question, always have your upline involved. Yeah, for the technique I'm giving. You might have different ways of doing things, but it's about, you're learning on the job that way, and you've got someone that knows what they're all about. So you're not getting thrown into the deep end. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to now...